Call to order the Finance Committee meeting for Ascension Parish, March 10th, 2020. Please rise for the invocation and pledge. Councilman Orgeron.
Everyone, please prepare yourselves for prayer. As we stand here before you, Lord, in the midst of friends, constituents, neighbors, allies, we ask that you bestow upon us your graces, your love, and your wisdom as we do all that we can to better improve the lives of the individuals living here in Ascension Parish. Lord, I personally ask for your guidance and your love as family members deal personally with tragedies. We know you have a plan, and we adore you for your wisdom and the plan that you give before us. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, Madam Secretary. Note that Councilman Turner and Councilman Thomas are not present. And do we have another one?
Councilman Robert.
Oh, Councilman Robert, Joel Robert. All other council members are present. There are no chair's additions. Chair would like to announce that item D under general business, section 5, will be stricken. It will not be addressed tonight. For public comment, if anyone has a comment on any agenda item, please come to the podium, take a red card, green card, or white card, fill it out, and present it to the secretary, and we'll call you up when it's time for that agenda item. We go back to general business. A, presentation of property and casualty insurance and third-party administration, Hughes Insurance. Madam Secretary, let it be record show that Joel Robert is here, just showed up.
I'll give
Mr.
John-
Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll give John a second to pull up the presentation there. First off, I'm Brett Hughes with Hughes Insurance Services. I'm the president of our agency. I would like to take a second, if I could, to introduce a few of our team members, staff members that we have here with us tonight. First and foremost, my one and only sibling, my brother Brad, who's also my business partner. We've got Lori LeBlanc, Kelly Rambin, and Casey Shakesnotter. Just wanted to kind of put a face with a name for some of the administration as well, but some of the ladies that actually will be working hand in hand with me on the account this year. Brief history of our agency. Let me make sure I hit this clicker. I'm not used to using technology here. Our agency, we started in 1980. Some of you probably know my dad, Ronnie. He was coaching East Ascension High School at the time, and took a sabbatical. Decided to try insurance. A couple of buddies of his were in it, and so he did, and needless to say, that sabbatical turned into an insurance career. I came on board in 1993. My brother Brad started with us in 2003. We've currently got 14 what I consider to be very good professional insurance folks at our office, dedicated, knowledgeable. All of them live here in Ascension Parish. They're not only good at what they do, but to be honest, they're really good people, and that's just as important. You know, one thing that our parents taught us at an early age is, hey, give back to your community when you can. Surround yourself with good people, and we've tried to do that since Brad and I took over for Dad in 2003. I started in 93, like I said. Brad came on board in 2003, and currently we can have well over 200 years experience in our agency. The next slide, just wanted to kind of give you an idea of some of the current governmental entities that we handle from an insurance standpoint. We have almost 20 years experience in dealing with governmental entities and municipalities from insurance. You can see up there the Ascension Parish Assessor's Office, the Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office, City of Gonzales, the Ascension Public School System, and now obviously the Ascension Parish government. So we, to my knowledge, I think we're the only agency that actually handles insurance for multiple, governmental entities throughout the parish. I'm not 100% on that, but best I can tell from the information I've been able to pull up, I think that's the case. The next slide, When we started to look at some of this back, I guess it was in sometime in late January, if I remember correctly. I'd have to go back and look. There were some things with the account that we noticed kind of stood out, didn't make a whole lot of sense. We wanted to check into it and find out, well, why that is. You'll notice on here, one of the first things that we really pay close attention to is some of the fees that were being charged on some of the policies, what we call in the industry broker fees or company fees. Some companies call them policy fees. For the presentation you have in front of you, I use the word broker fee. And I'll touch on this fairly quickly, but on 2019 to 20, if you look on the left side of that, you'll see where it has $20,000 in a consultant contract, property policy broker fee of $12,750, an equipment policy fee of $5,000, and then the terrorism fee of $500, and pollution policy of $350. Add all that together, you were looking at it right at $38,600 in just fees that have been charged. What we were able to do, and keep it in mind, you'll see when we get to the next few pages, we didn't really go in and make changes currently to coverages, companies, and things like that, strictly from a timing standpoint. You know, when you have about 30 days to process something this large, you've got to do the best job you can with the information you have. And over the next 90 to 120 days is when we're really going to go in and review some of this stuff in a more in-depth way. But you'll notice what we were able to do, our agency, we do not have a consulting contract. We're not charging you anything to handle the account. It's, if you will, an at-will professional contract or services. The administration can hire and fire us at any time. That's how we currently handle it with all the governmental entities that we do business with. And to be honest, that's how most agencies do handle it. You know, it's not a contract that says you got to keep me for a certain period of time. So you don't have that with our agency. The next thing we were able to do, your current property policy, keeping in mind that we kept it with the same company, the same broker, U.S. Risk, we were able to lower that fee from the $12,750 to $1,500. Go on down the list and you'll see where the $5,000 equipment policy fee was lowered to $250, terrorism to $250, and then the pollution policy at $150, for a total of $2,150. So just these in contracts, not getting into coverages and changes and things like that, you're looking at over $36,000 in savings to the parish on an annual basis based off of how we do some business compared to just how others do it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, it's just how we've always done it, and we're comfortable in doing it that way. And I forgot to mention early on too, once I finish, feel free to answer or ask any questions you might have. I'll bring Josh up in a little bit that's going to go over the TPA portion of the presentation. I just wanted to give all of you a kind of a quick review of where we are from an insurance standpoint right now on the property and casualty insurance. Next slide is cost and coverage. We wanted you to have an idea of what policies that our agency currently handles now for the parish as of March 1st. If you look on the left side, it's the policy type, the middle is the carrier, and then all the way to the right is the cost. The general liability, auto, public entity, the property, the equipment, the terrorism, and the equipment breakdown, and the pollution, those are the policies that were renewed effective March 1st. The other policies are on either a 2-year or a 3-year policy term, which means that our agency has taken over the servicing of those accounts until they renew. For instance, if you look at the crime policy up there, it's with Travelers. That policy is a 3-year policy. It renews March of 22. Between now and March of 22, we'll be servicing that account. The cyber policy is a 2-year policy. That's March of 21, so between now and then, we're servicing that. And then the excess workers' comp is March of 21 as well. So there again, we're taking over the servicing of that account. So that just gives you a quick glance of kind of what you currently have now compared to what you had in the previous year, I should say. I will touch on the pollution in a second, and I want to point out that $105,130, that is a 3-year policy. One thing we were able to do is to get a 3-year policy for the pollution. Wasn't easy to do, but we were able to get it done. So instead of it being approximately about $50,000 a year if it was on an annual basis, it's a little over $30,000 a year per year for 3 years. So the rate is locked in for 3 years until March of 2023. Want to touch on something that we noticed about the pollution. And this was really the only thing that we made drastic changes to from prior policies until now. And it was a glaring gap in coverage, if you will, that we had to make sure we basically plugged that hole. When we got a copy of the pollution policy, if you notice in the bottom left corner there, you'll see the little red dot in Donaldsonville. the address for that property is 300 Homer Street. Obviously, that's the Donaldsonville Courthouse. That is the only site pollution or site that was included on the current pollution policy. Now, when we looked at the notes on the policy or the notes on the application had a comment about purchase people's water, and we're assuming that was the reason that pollution was then written for the first time last year in March. But the people's water isn't listed anywhere on the account or on the policy. The only coverage we had was for Donaldsonville Courthouse. I don't know what pollution coverage we would have or exposure we would have for the courthouse, but we knew right off, okay, this doesn't make any sense, we got to fix it. We talked to the administration. I've met several times with Mr. Tommy Marshall, the safety and risk manager for the parish. We agreed that, yes, this shouldn't be there, we need to fix it. We contacted the prior agency on it. They verified that. I'm not sure why it was that is the case, but that is the case. It's only that one location. So you'll notice on the next slide, we now have 53 locations covered by pollution. And this is things like sewer treatment facilities, wastewater treatment facilities, above ground, in-ground storage facilities for diesel and things like that. When we started looking at it, me and Mr. Tommy Marshall, there were a lot of locations that we needed to add that we just did not have coverage for. That has now been taken care of. Not only do we have the sites covered, but we've got what's called some contractors pollution coverage included, which is when we actually have associates of the parish out there spraying and things like that. If something would happen while they're doing that, we have coverage. That was not part of the prior policy. And then we also have what's called transportation pollution. It's not a big risk, but we do have it some if we have tanks and storage tanks on the back of trucks and happen to get in a wreck and diesel leaks and things like that, we can get brought into a claim from that. So those coverages are now part of that current policy. That's the reason that you see the notice, you'll notice the premium was 30-something thousand a year compared to the $2,900 it was. But to be completely honest, the $2,900, we didn't have any coverage for anything. So we fixed that. That's the main change that we've made, or the biggest change we made to the current insurance program. Now, we'll find more things going forward that we might make recommendations on, but right now, that was the one we spent most of our time correcting. And then each year when we come before you, I'll give you something that looks very similar to this. We want you, each of you, to know what companies that we're going to, what we call a marketing summary of, not every company in the state of Louisiana is going to write municipality insurance, but there's a lot that will. Some of these companies, for instance, might only write the property. They might only give us a price for property or only for the equipment breakdown. That's just a list of all the companies that we went to in the last 30 to 45 days in order to get pricing this year on those policies that renewed March 1st. And then the last thing that I'm going to touch on before I bring Josh up, one of the, situations that we wanted to make some changes to after looking at how some of the procedures were set up and processes was the way that the current third-party administrator and the current consultant, as well as the current agency, which was actually Brown & Brown out of Baton Rouge, was handling some of the claims on our general liability, auto, and excess workers' comp coverage, dealing with the self-insured portion of it. We've got several meetings that we've had with administration, phone calls to address some of this. It is my recommendation, based off everything that I've seen, that a change in TPAs are definitely needed. We're going to recommend tonight that you take a look at, each one of you should have a copy of the contract for a third-party administrator called LOCA, Louisiana Claims Administrators. I'll bring Josh up in a second. Josh is well-versed. We've worked with Josh in the past on different accounts. You'll notice from this map here, just to give you an idea, he's in 59 of the 64 parishes in Louisiana. In that packet you have in front of you is a list of his clients and his experience, and I'll let him touch on the contract itself and some of the things that we think where we can get some best practices put in place that we probably need going forward. That's going to just make the administration's job and not just easier, but have, clarity of kind of how some of these things need to run going forward. So without any questions or any further ado, you can ask me any question you need to now, or you can wait till Josh finishes his presentation. You guys just tell me how you want to handle that.
We'll go ahead and ask the council if they have any questions now. So.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure I'm clear on this. So the pollution coverage that you guys are offering us now, you said it's $50,000. It was $50,000 a year. You guys got it down to 3 years for $105,000, and we're getting all those extra sites covered.
Not exactly, and maybe I
Okay.
want to make sure I clarify that.
All right.
If we would have wrote a one-year policy and not a three-year policy, that premium would have been over $50,000 for that 1 year.
Okay.
We went to the company and said, we would love to lock it in as long as we can. They agreed to do a 3-year policy at the 104,000 or whatever that figure was. I don't have it right here in front of me again. That is 30-something thousand a year. So by getting the 3-year policy, that rate is locked in. That's a cost savings of about $17,000 a year.
I got you.
The previous policy was just a tad under $3,000 for the year.
But it
For
was
the
only
one
covering the
site.
courthouse.
For the courthouse in Donaldsonville.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, simple math, if you take the 3,000 and multiply it times 50-something locations, that's a whole lot more than $30-something thousand a year that it could have cost. But we were able to get pricing credits based off the number of locations that we've added to that policy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Lawler?
Yeah, going back to the pollution, did I hear you correct that we didn't have pollution coverage until last year?
Best we can tell.
Okay, good.
The current policy was dated March of 2019. We've pulled some records. We can't find anything. We went back to Markel, which is the company that the pollution was with. That's the first policy that they had. And in fact, when we looked at the application that we were given, it had a note on there that said adding pollution due to purchase of water, something to that effect. If there is a copy of one prior to that, we just don't have a record of it or knowledge of it yet.
Okay, and obviously what concerns me is, and I think you'll agree, that we have a lot of sites that should have been covered probably for the last 20 or 30 years.
I would agree with that.
That would need pollution coverage.
Yes, because, you had an additional exposure, if you will, with people's water, but we've also had several sites with, storage facilities.
Every
water-
sewage site.
Every
we
sewage,
have.
and those for years now. I can't answer why that wasn't covered. I don't know.
Okay, I mean, I think that's a mix of the insurance side of things and the administration side of things. We should have people in the administration that should have handled that in years past, and that really needs to be looked into, why that wasn't done. Did y'all receive actuarial tables?
Do we receive them?
Yes.
Well, we have two things that we have currently. We have the 2019 actuarial report that was done by it's a company called Sigma. That's the one, the best I can tell, that the parish has used for several years now. I'm not going to stand in front of you today and tell you we're going to continue to use that report. There is some information in there that we feel like, I don't know if it's not accurate, but it's just not best practices at times. It's rather lengthy. It's 30 to 40-something pages. The company that we've used in the past for some of this is 5 to 6 pages. It really gets it down to the nitty-gritty and kind of takes away a lot of the fluff. The cost for that report is going to be less going forward. And it's a good question, because it actually goes to, there were some discrepancies on what we were able to find out based on the information that we have in front of us that we're looking at. Well, wait, it doesn't say this. I'm being told that this might be the case, but there's nothing in the records that we can find that states that. And one of those things was the reason we're recommending the change in the TPA, and John will get into some of this, is the idea of you had two different people basically handling TPA claims. Your third-party administrator was handling some, your consultant was handling some, and those two didn't meet up a lot of times. And this report, the actuarial report, actually addressed some of that to say that some claims that we thought were being reported to the TPA never were reported. And we just don't know why that was the case, but I can tell you it is not by far not the best way to handle it.
Okay. Thank you. I'm glad to have you all on board.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Madam Secretary, Travis Turner's here.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Dempsey.
Yeah, Brad, I was noticing that we have the pump stations also on here, the Sorrento,
Correct. You on the pollution policy?
correct?
Yes, sir. The pumping stations,
Bayou, yeah, I see all three.
and we have 20, don't hold me to the exact number, out of those 53 locations, 20-something of them were recently acquired, if that's the right word, by the parish, as far as some sewer treatment facilities and subdivisions and things. Those are part of that 53 as well.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, Brad, go ahead.
I'm going to bring Josh up now with LOCA, which is Louisiana Claims Administrators. He's going to review, you should, I think, in your packet there, have a copy of his contract. You can answer those TPA questions. I promise you a whole lot better than I can. But look, don't worry, I got your back, bro. I'm right here.
Good evening. Again, my name is Josh Cockfield. I'm the owner and operator of LOCA, Louisiana Claims Administrators. We are a licensed TPA in the state of Louisiana. Our core business is municipalities, school boards, sheriff's departments, and loss funds. We have currently 20 contracts with municipalities, school boards, sheriff's departments, private industry, and 2 loss funds we handle. The Clerk of Courts Association, which is about 54 clerk of courts that are across the state, and 29 school boards in the school board fund that I handle. So your business is what we do. It's pretty much all I've handled since I got into claims business in '98. As Brett had mentioned, I've done work with his office out of Baton Rouge. I guess it's Lewis Moore Agency. We handle the sheriff's departments, and so we know each other through the past. And we really appreciate the opportunity to provide our services to the parish. I live in the parish. I built my office in the parish 3 years ago. Ever since I opened my office in 2010, I've been in the parish. I'm not going anywhere. We have 8 people that work in my office. And my proposal that I think y'all have a copy of the full proposal. Does that go through, give you the history of my firm, personnel, the location? It should give a brief history. I'm trying to keep this as brief as possible for y'all. But we manage our claims with a web-based claim system. It's as good as you can get. It upgraded probably a year and a half ago. It's great because I can offer the parish free access to authorized personnel. They can access the claims if they want to appoint somebody, if they want access. Most of the time we can provide reports. It has a lot of business rules. Typically what we do is we meet ahead of time. We can map pretty much anything. We can track day to week. We can track the number of claims on Mondays, the number of claims based on body part. We can track by department if you wanted to figure out what department's having the most losses for workers' comp or auto. We can pretty much track it at any level. For the school boards, we track claims with videos, claims without videos. We track law firms by attorney. It's hugely data driven. It helps us provide the information that y'all need to improve. That's pretty much, on the, I guess our capabilities is pretty much what we do. If y'all have any questions about the contract, it is a flat rate. I think the total is $39,000. I waived the cost for conversion. Until I receive the data, I really won't know what it's going to cost me, but I'm eating it. Whatever it is, we've already assumed it in exchange for an extended contract. That way, I'm not losing money after 1 year. It could range between $6,000 to $18,000 depending upon the data. I believe that it's going to cost. It's not going to be on the high end because the system that's coming from is going to have all the mapping that a lot of them do. We may have to do some manual because it's not web-based and digitized, but that's something that we're going to handle internally. I've converted over 20-something accounts in the last 10 years and just as many the previous 6 years. And that includes all claims. It's not a limit. You don't have a number of claims and we charge more. It's pretty much based on your history. We're trusting it. There are some concerns about frequency that not all the claims that were reported are actually on the data that I received. But it's not something we can't handle. It's something we're pretty confident that the amount we're charging is a fair amount. And so with that, if y'all have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Gentlemen, anybody? Councilman Lawson.
So it sounds like y'all do like a lot of monitoring. Y'all kind of keep on top
Oh, yeah, right.
of all your customers.
Yeah, we do all the reporting. We do all the reporting for the parish. Any reporting guidelines that the carrier has, we review all of them. We get copies from the agent. We upload into a system. you're responsible for it, but through on my contract, I basically take all the risk on late reporting. Everything is handled. It's all written in the contract to give you the insurance that you don't have to worry about when to report something to the carrier. We take care of all of that.
Okay, so with having the services of what you provide, recently, we've had an issue with the current parish president with a deadline and whatnot. Is this something that you would have stepped in and taken care of and stopped us from missing, such a deadline?
Oh, yeah, so I'm not sure which one you're speaking of, but anything in policies, government reporting, the contract pretty much stays on, assuming the responsibility. So as long as I get copies of the full policies and we know what the reporting guidelines are, I'm responsible for it. And I'm not sure what you're talking about, but it's on me. If we're required to pour, you give us instructions that we're supposed to do X, Y, and Z, that's part of our responsibility. If the contract has to be modified to cover certain things that aren't covered, we'd be willing to modify it as well.
Councilman Lawler.
I want to go back to payment of claims. Mr. Hughes had mentioned something about the prior agent paying some claims. Are we going to discontinue that practice?
Right, as I understand it now, there's a lot of confusion as far as exactly the process, which is a lot different than what I'm used to. Normally, a account this size, even smaller or bigger, normally what you do is you have a loss fund that either I open up and do one or two things. An account this size, normally you would figure out based on a loss run and payment history how much is getting paid each month out in claims, and you'd come up with a reserve in a bank account, meaning, say just for $100,000. And when that amount gets below 50, then we would send a payment register to the parish saying, hey, we need the account funded back up to the $100,000 amount. And so the payment register will have all the payments when they were paid, pretty much like a check register, and then you add that with the balance, and it'll equal up to $100,000. So every month, you just keep replenishing it between 50 and 100. Once it goes below 50, because you don't want to have no money in the bank to issue the payment. So there's so many different ways you can do that. You can do it where it's a zero balance, and every week we send a check register with the documentation for approval. Once it's approved, the funds are transferred over, then we release the checks. The majority of them do it to where it's a loss fund, and it's much more efficient because we can issue checks at different times. The approval process changes from account to account. It's really up to the parish, and typically what we do is we meet before, find out what they're comfortable with, what guidelines they want us to abide by, but typically it's done with a loss fund that is managed by our office. We reconcile it, provide it a reconciliation to the parish on a monthly basis. It's really good for auditing every payment that we issue. Attached to that payment is a paper clip where you click on it, and it's a digital copy of whatever invoice or the only thing that wouldn't have a copy would be if someone's receiving comp and it's for lost pay. There's really nothing to show for that payment on a recurring basis. But the information is stored in 5 different locations across the United States. If something would happen to my office, all of my employees can go to their house, log on, and work immediately. And Parish, we provide free user. Just a user, you can't change the data, you can't manipulate it, but I can provide users where you can go in, view pretty much anything you want, limited to your account, obviously. Normally, we're so responsive that they just call us and we can provide the data, but some clients will want to use it to go in, look at the payments before they approve it. We're open to that too, but it really helps because you can audit it remotely, and if there's ever a disaster, your information is safe. It's backed up out of Missouri and 5 other different locations. We have nothing locally. Everything is on the cloud. So, it's typically the modern way to handle it.
Have we received a loss run from the past to help you analyze?
Yes. For the claim that Gary, Resolution, is it Resolution Services? received the lost run. For the stuff handling by Mr. Robert, it looks more like a payment register, so that's why it's unsure if it's the total number of claims. It's only claims that were paid, not claims that may be investigated or denied, so I don't know really how many claims were submitted. We're going off of what we know and what was provided. It was payment registers from him for so many years, and then the lost run from Gary. So there's a lot of unknown that we have to figure out once we get involved, get further involved.
I'll just add to that, we're having meetings tomorrow morning scheduled, assuming that you guys approve the contract, that we're going to meet with Ms. Gwynn and the administration, the finance administration, just to find out exactly some of those procedures, to give them some ideas of what we think would be best going forward. It's not ironclad. We're open for discussion with it, and we're going to talk about it, but some of the things that we noticed, like I said earlier, just didn't make a lot of sense to us. Josh's firm is able to come in and make recommendations that he considers it by far the best practice in the industry in order to do it this way. We'll know more after we meet with them again. We've had some discussions. I've talked on the phone with Ms. Gwynn a couple of times now. Met with John and Tommy and President Quinton sat in on one of those meetings. We'll know more, but some of the data that we have, the reason that we're coming tonight is because Josh's firm has to have time to transfer that data from the current TPA over to his systems. We're hoping to be able to start the data transfer tomorrow. Now, for the current month, the current TPA is still going to be handling some of those claims. We're going to talk about with the administration tomorrow about maybe changing some of that, just so it doesn't make much sense to us to get new claims between now and the end of the month and continue to handle them the way they've been handled if we can fix that problem going forward, effective tomorrow or next week or whatever, instead of waiting until April 1st. His contract's dated April 1st on there as far as to be officially approved, but the data transfer needs to start now. That's the only way he'll be up and running for April 1st in order to start the handling of any new claims that we might have. What I will tell you that will change is the two-payment system that is currently set up. Every claim will go through, as far as a general liability, auto, or workers' comp, self-insured fund claim. Hughes Insurance will not be writing checks for claims. We never have. We just won't. That's just not the way that we think is the best way to do it. Josh's firm will handle all that. They'll have access to the funds that the parish puts into that account to pay those claims. Our agency will not fool with that at all. They're the expert. That's the reason we partner with them. So I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that we do have a meeting scheduled to talk about the processes and procedures going forward.
Okay, I wanted one more thing, real quick, not really a question, but I want to thank y'all, I want to thank the administration for moving quickly on this. I know a couple of us up here have experience with workers' comp claims. If you don't pay something timely, a single medical bill that gets submitted, that can set you up for attorney's fees and penalties, and it can get extremely expensive.
It's $4,000 per
Yeah.
bill.
And that, so if somebody submits, which they've been known to do, they'll hold 10 or 15 bills, submit them, right around Christmas when everybody's off, hoping to get that big penalty. That's the concern, is we don't want that gap in coverage, so to say, in protection. Yeah, don't get any ideas, guys. I'm on the defense side of that.
Councilman Lawler, you're exactly right, because I can tell you, every meeting or phone call that we had with the administration, they've been Johnny on the spot with it. I mean, we got a lot of information in a very short period of time that we had to go through and dig through and decipher. And fortunately, we've been able to do it, but we could not have done that if they would not have been so responsive to the requests that we put in each and every time.
Okay, I move that we accept the contract.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Do I have a second?
I have a few more questions still.
I was going, go ahead, Councilman Turner.
No, I know I've dealt with LOCA a few times before. Now, as far as the reserve fund itself, will you be allowed, or will those claims still be brought to the parish, to the council prior to approval? Or will you?
Yeah, I'm not sure how it's set up now. I think they may have some authority, the
I think it's
claims.
10,000. Yeah, I think it's up to 10,000 is approved without the council approval, and we don't have any plans on changing that. I mean, that'll limit, unless when we meet with the administration, we recommend something else. But currently, if I understand it correctly, Ms. Gwynn, it's 10,000 that can be approved for payments before it comes to the council.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was voted on by previous council.
And so just to be clear, we give ourselves zero authority. We don't have any authority to pay any claims, settlements, without approval from the parish, whether it's administration or the council. And any claim that would be settled that would go into the council's authority, meaning that the council would approve it, typically what we do is get an agreement tentative of a approval of the council. So whatever we do, we would typically go to the administration or the school board or sheriff's department and say, hey, you know, it's mostly school boards and municipalities where you have to negotiate settlements without true authority because you don't know what the amount's going to be. So you get an authority to say, okay, we think it's worth this much. We can try and settle it. We just get an agreement with the plaintiff attorney that, hey, if the board approval, you know, we can settle for this amount if the board approves it. And normally they'll agree, and then they wait for the board approval. Normally, I'll either go in executive session, explain it to them, they vote on it. You don't really publicize it. You don't want people showing up for stuff like that. But that's typically how it is. We have zero authority in every account. There's a school, Ascension Parish School Board gave us some authority. I prefer not to have authority. I prefer every settlement to go through the parish. It's just easier that everybody knows what's going on before it happens, and there's really no problems that way. Everybody knows ahead of time.
So from the day you get that first demand letter, you're gonna meet with us and go through the range of what the value of the case may be?
Well, not necessarily when the first demand. It would be to where once it's ready to be resolved, meaning a lot of stuff would happen from the time it's made. You know, you could have a demand after 2 months, right? If there's a settlement and we think it's worth, you know, if it's a small soft tissue injury worth $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, we would have a point person at the parish typically we would communicate with. And that person would be responsible for following the guidelines or policies that the parish has internally. Our operation on our end really stays the same across the board. That's why I'd rather have zero authority, because I don't want my adjusters making a decision that people at the parish wouldn't agree with, whether it's right or wrong.
And when your adjusters be working to try to keep the parish out of litigation?
Oh, yeah, no, we're really good at that. If you feel free to call the school board fund that I handle. We saved them millions of dollars in litigation management. They would have went bankrupt if it wasn't for us. That's my opinion. They would back it up. A lot of these accounts that I have been with me since 2002 when I worked for Fowler, which is bought out by bigger companies. And then I opened a TPA for a small firm in 2006, and we had fallen out. I opened my own company in 2010, and every account had followed me since 2002 except 2. So workers' comp, I've never lost an account I picked up. We can quantify savings over the years. We're very different from a lot of the TPAs. I'm an anomaly. The size of my company, the average experience level of my adjusters is hard to match because of the size of my company. We don't hire trainees. They're all experienced. But I stand by it, and that's why I'm willing to waive some of the fees, because it's a long-term process. I'm not going anywhere, and I hope to be serving the parish for a long time.
In other words, you tell them you don't have the adjusters there. They're gonna lowball our attorneys and have us in litigation.
Oh, well, we're very aggressive, meaning that we've seen.
I got some of those for you.
We know what we know what claims are valued at. We know what billing is appropriate. We can adopt a litigation management guideline. Jeff Diaz, I believe, he handles claims for us for Ascension Parish. I just recommended him taking over, I think, 30 litigated files for St. John the Baptist School Board we handle. And reason, because he's fair and he gets results, bottom line. My relationship with my attorneys are strictly business. If they do well for us, it makes our job easy. I don't have any personal relationship with Jeff other than my business relationship with him. I know what kind of work he does. I know he knows all the players in the area, which is important with the judges and plaintiff attorneys. So I have we have a good working relationship with the current council.
I just like, I did deal with y'all a few times. I didn't have, it was a decent process. It wasn't bad.
Well, that's good.
That's coming from the attorney sending the ban letter.
Yeah.
I'm glad we really don't like each other a lot, because if that was the case, that would be a different story.
Right.
Okay, gentlemen, any other questions?
I got one.
Councilman?
For clarification, what are the fees that Hughes Insurance are going to make over the course of this contract?
As far as fees, none. We don't charge any fees. Our contract is directly with the insurance companies that we put the insurance with. Commission-wise that's what we make commission. We don't charge fees. The fees that are charged that we talked about, those goes directly to the company. You know, Hughes Insurance does not make a penny of that. Never have. It's just the philosophy that we have in our business. Our commissions, depending on what account you're looking at, is going to be anywhere between 10 and 14% probably, whatever the policy is. 3-year crime policy with Travelers is probably going to pay 12% commissions. I will tell you, I don't hide. I don't, when you get our copies of renewal proposals, it tells you exactly on those renewal proposals how much our commission is on that. That's just the philosophy that my dad started our agency under, and we believe in, so we'll continue to do that. But it's strictly a commission fee based off the contract that we have with the company.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
I just got one more question, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I've been trying to get the information on the proposal and the work that you were offering to the parish now for about 2 months. I've known you and Brad for 10, 15 years.
Worked together years ago with raising money for Boy Scouts.
We worked together for the Boy Scouts. You guys actually provided coverage for my wife's business for about 7 or 8 years. I have the utmost respect for you guys, and I'm glad that you're coming aboard. I just, I just wish that there was a little more openness with communications between the administration and those of us sitting up here, letting us know what's going on. Because I was expecting the worst, Brett. I'll be honest with you. I was expecting the worst, and I am extremely impressed with what you guys are offering to do for the parish and do for the people of Ascension, and I thank you guys for stepping up and making that offer. I truly respect you guys.
I appreciate those comments, and that's just how we've always tried to operate. The openness, I will tell you, the administration knows this, I've talked to them. If there was a difference in philosophy, we wouldn't be here. It's just as simple as that. Going forward, that process, just from a timing standpoint, is going to be so much better.
Sure.
So yeah, you guys will have much more advanced notice, if you will, on renewals and things like that. The administration will have those in advance notice as well. Not ready to say that we're going to put what's called an insurance committee together, but we've had some early discussions with the administration, as long as with some council members. Chairwoman Casso, we've talked to her about it. That's something we might look at doing to help some of the communication process back and forth.
Perfect.
Yep.
And by the way, I also want to commend you on not showcasing the prettier brother up here at the podium. I was really impressed with the fact that
I see both of you have some of the same issues.
that you came up here and you made the pitch instead of putting the pretty guy up there.
Exactly.
Do
No
appreciate
doubt
that.
about it. Yep.
Councilman, any other questions? I just have one real quick, Brad. Distinguish between Hughes and the TPA. Who is our agent?
Hughes Insurance is your agent.
Okay,
We're your consultant. We're everything other than the TPA.
they handle
The
claims.
two companies that will be working on your property and casualty insurance going forward, you're looking at them.
Okay, and you will establish a point of contact, Mr. President?
We will,
Okay.
yep, and they have copies of some, and that's one reason I wanted to bring some of these ladies here, Casey and Kelly. Casey, red shirt, Kelly, blue shirt. Kelly's a Santamon person as well, but she looks really good in royal blue.
Yeah.
Considered an East Ascension graduate. They're the two ladies at our office that work hand in hand every day on this account with us. I mean, they will be, and so, yeah, that you're looking at something gets messed up, you're looking at the guys that you can call, and hopefully we can fix it.
Good, good. Any other discussions? I think I have a motion
In a second.
and a second. Any opposition?
Thank you. We appreciate your time.
By way of
Working with you. Thank you.
clarity, I think this goes to the full council, correct?
Yes.
It's a recommendation, unanimous recommendation from this committee to the full council, okay? And that'll be on the 19th of March.
Thank you
you,
very
gentlemen.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Okay. Under general business, item B, Ascension Economic Development Corporation quarterly briefing. Kate MacArthur, President and CEO of AEDC. Ms. MacArthur, welcome.
Thanks. Good evening. As part of our reporting structure, we come here quarterly and give an update on the activities of Ascension Economic Development. And I brought Lisa Laws, who's our project manager and spearheads our business retention program, so that she's here to help with questions and moral support. So included tonight, we also wanted to mention some of the highlights of the year end of 2019, since we were unable to do our quarterly presentation at the end of the year. So we'll be covering some information in both, and you can ask questions on both. I was kind of waiting until the presentation came up. I'm not sure if you have it in front of you.
I've got it on the computer.
Oh, there it is.
There you go.
So our organization started in 2006. We have 14 board members, 9 of which are voting. And we have a mission, which is to maximize the economic opportunity in Ascension Parish. We do this mainly in 2 ways, and that's business attraction and business retention and expansion. And then we do work on factors that influence attraction and retention and expansion, which include site development, workforce development, and then other resources that we also work with partners on. So in 2019, we had 33 new leads come in, and so the way we source project leads comes in 3 ways. So they call us directly at our office. They come to us from Louisiana Economic Development, which is the state agency, or we get them through partner networks, which include the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, utility companies, and consultants. So in 2019, 48% of our leads came from the state, 42% came directly to our office, and 10% came from partners. Not all of the leads that come in get converted into projects. Some of them we just don't have the requirements that they're looking for. Some of them don't meet our requirements internally for financial reasons and other reasons. And so what we ended up having was a 60% conversion rate, and we added 19 projects in 2019, which represented $6 billion and 1,900 potential new jobs. In this first quarter, honestly, I expected a slowdown based on the global economy, the coronavirus, and the presidential election coming up this year, but there has been no slowdown. We have received 9 projects year to date, which would represent 35 new jobs and $41 million in capital investment, and we added 3 of those to our project tracker. So those request 33% from each entity that we receive projects from. In 2019, we exceeded our goal of 50 companies by 1, met with 51 companies. So the companies you're seeing are all the ones we met with through our business retention and expansion program. The companies highlighted in yellow are the ones within the city of Gonzales. Through those 51 interviews, we discovered 10 potential expansion opportunities with an investment of $512 million and 22 new jobs. When we attend these meetings, we ask some standard questions along with our regular conversation. And one of those main questions is the number of employees that they have here, and then how many of those employees reside in Ascension Parish. So last year's average was 68% of the employees that were at the businesses we visited are also Ascension Parish residents. So when we talk about their jobs and their employment, we ask them if they are aware of different hiring practices or resources for job training. We started a partnership with the Ascension Parish Schools and the Ascension Chamber last year through the Work Ready Community Initiative. So we talk about that with each of our BRE visits as well, just to make sure that they're aware of any resources. And then the other question we ask is if there are any expansion possibilities on the horizon in the next few years. And we do this to make sure that if there are, we able to inform them of what state incentives and potentially local incentives apply, so that when they're competing either internally for money through their corporation or externally with other site locations, that they are aware of some savings that they could achieve by choosing to expand their plant locally. The other 2 main questions that we focus on is what is their greatest accomplishment of the year, and then what is the largest barrier to doing business for that year. So when we put the list together, the top 3 accomplishments that were most stated was growth, new openings, and expansions. Number 1 is the highlight of the year. Second was having a new or an improved safety program, which is very important. And then the last was having their best financial year on record. So those were great achievements in 2019. And then the challenges to doing business, number 1 reported was government related, and a lot of that had to do with federal tariffs, like steel tariffs, Chinese tariffs, state permitting, which a lot of that had to do with timelines, and some with federal timelines too with permits. And then the last concern was ITEP stability, which had to do with the predictability and consistency of the state incentive program for industrial tax exemption. And then the second most cited was workforce availability and retention, and that was just a lot of competition between industries and being able to retain employees that are good. And then the last concern was traffic. That gets highlighted quite a bit. So far in 2020, we have met with 3 companies, and we have 3 scheduled within the next week. So we are on track to meet with 50 again this year. Closing out 2019, we had 8 projects worth just over $1.4 billion, representing 243 new permanent jobs in the parish. So that was a great year for us here in Ascension. I was trying to find today statistics on other parishes. I could only find one that had more, not even wins, just more investment levels than we had, which was all the LNG facilities in the Lake Charles area. So they may have exceeded us, but by all accounts, Ascension Parish is performing very well and one of the top parishes in the state for business investment and job decisions. So currently, we have 15 A projects, and the way that we rank our projects is A, B, and C. So A projects are the most likely to make a decision within 12 months, and that's either a decision to invest here or to cancel their project plans. And so on the screen, you can see the A projects. We also recognize what day we start working with them, so you can kind of see how long they sit on the chart at sometimes, depending on the complexity of the projects. So these A projects represent 239 potential new permanent jobs and almost $5 billion in capital investment. Overall, we have 38 active projects that represent over $9 billion in investment and almost 2,000 jobs. So we keep those projects fluid based on decision timelines and interactions with the company. So A projects, we spend the majority of our time working with, having meetings with, and then as B is a little bit less interaction, and then C, sometimes it's a lot at one time, and then it may go cold for a few months. So that's how we keep our projects fluid. And part of our goals is site development to make sure that we have places for projects to locate. So we do a lot of marketing of site locations. We do this with Entergy, the state, and our own website. We list all commercial, retail, industrial properties. Anything except residential can be put on our website. One of our main properties is a 17,000-acre site in the Modesta area on the West Bank. It's called the Riverplex Mega Park of Louisiana. Last year, we launched a website dedicated only to this 17,000-acre opportunity. We had the most amount of site visits and project interest last year as well. We had 6 site visits, and we currently still have 6 active projects looking. We did have 2 site visits so far this year, and we host an annual landowners meeting every year. So we invite all 180-plus landowners to meet with us once a year, and the majority of the land is controlled by 7 major landowners. So it's not as cumbersome as it sounds. But we do stay informed with kind of the way the industrial overlay is laid out so that it has residential, commercial, light, heavy, and medium industrial planned within that 17,000 acres. We talk about different initiatives with infrastructure. We're looking at doing another dock study potentially this year, and also a developer study to see if we can get someone to take our vision and actually make it a reality. So the vision overall is to use this to the highest and best use for all and not at the detriment of any single landowner. So if there is a deep water dock, we'd like it to be a shared dock. If it's a rail, we want it to be a shared rail. So we don't want to have a company come in and cut off access to any other large tract or small tract of land within that site. So the only way to do that is actually to own it and control it, which we have neither, but we try to keep everybody in that same mindset. And it's been going really well over the last 7 or 8 years. So we continue to do that annually, and we'll continue to invest in looking into infrastructure options to get this site off the ground and hopefully get one of these projects to officially commit. Additionally, we have the Certified Site Program, which is put on by the state. It's an excellent program. They have a small version and a large version. So if you have 30 acres or above, you can participate in one of the two. What ends up happening is it's a split cost program, so you do a lot of environmental studies and due diligence on your property, and the cost is split between the state, the property owner, and AEDC, and so the landowner ends up paying 8% of what the total cost is of all of those studies. So it's a competitive program. We have a certain budget. Last year, we did 2 sites. We did the Double D development, which is also known as Heritage Crossing in Gonzales, in the small program. And then we did the Noel property in the Riverplex Megapark. And then there's 1 site on the Riverplex Megapark under consideration for this year. So the state has to approve it since they're paying the majority of the cost of the program. And then just before we can close for some questions, we like to recognize that in the approximately 14 years that our agency's been in existence, we've created just over 3,000 new jobs and over $9 billion in investment and $181 million of annual wages, which then recirculates in the community. So we're enjoying bringing in more projects and hope to increase that number as the years go on.
Thank you so much, Kate. Any questions, Councilman? Councilman Thomas?
Yes. First, let me apologize for being late. I'm asking a question. You mentioned one thing about the Ascension West Bank. Is there any other projects other than the one thing you mentioned that focus on the West Bank of Ascension?
So there are other projects. We had, in 2019, we had 2 within the city of Donaldsonville, and right now we have 1 that's looking at the Donaldsonville Industrial Park, which I know is owned by the city, but outside of the city limits.
Outside.
And then we did get a new call, a lead that actually just came in this morning for another project that's looking at 1 site in Donaldsonville and 1 site in St. James Parish. So we're trying to win that one away from St. James.
Okay, my other question is do y'all keep a tally of workers from the different areas? Or we just invite the workers that's coming from different parts of the state or different parts of the parishes? Or do we focus on Ascension alone, or just, we give them an opportunity, in other words?
Right. Well, through our Business Retention and Expansion Program, we encourage companies to hire locally, essentially, but we also hear the concerns about hiring, and so it all depends. Some people drive in from far away to come to some of these companies, and then other people, they say they're almost 100% staffed locally. It really depends on how close they are to the borders of another parish, and also on the size of the company, because if you have a larger number of employees, you're usually pulling from a larger geography. So those 2 factors make it different. The smaller the companies we found, the more local employees, but we do encourage them to hire locally first.
And the reason I ask that is because I've observed the traffic that's going over the Sunshine Bridge and that's passing through Donaldsonville without stopping. And that tells me that they're working in Donaldsonville or working on the West Bank, and not, they're not living there.
Right, that they could be going to Iberville or further on. I've sat in that traffic too. So we see it too. I mean, our office is in the roundabout at Sorrento, so we've been watching the traffic patterns going across the bridge, and there really is a tremendous amount of movement, and we also anticipate that all of those announcements in St. James is going to create even more movement, because we anticipate a lot of those residents that work there are going to be residents of Ascension. So we try to stay on top of it. Companies don't always want to release exact zip code data where their employees come from, but they'll usually give us percentages of where people come from. But we do have a lot of traffic from Livingston, Iberville, St. James, and EBR. So there's a lot of movement, and I think in the master plan study last year, it showed that 30% commuted out and then an additional 30% commuted in. So it's almost as if we have as many people leaving to go to work as coming in to work here. So I think the goal is to try and keep everybody here, but again, it's just a different traffic pattern.
So if any chance that we can, with it being legally, that we can focus on the companies that's coming in, that they would focus on hiring local with the proper training and the certification and being able to maintain the job
Yes.
in itself, that we would ask them. not demanding them, but it would
Right.
be prevalently known. I've known some parishes in the past that they take care of home first, and then they'll allow anything else to come in. But before anything else come in, they'll make sure that the home base is taken care of.
Yeah, well, for a lot of reasons, and companies really do want to hire local, and I mean, a big thing is they want their employees to come in on time, and they want them to come safely, so the closer they are to their workplace, the more likely they are to meet those goals, to have them to be here. I just think sometimes it's difficult that they're looking for the right person, so there may be times when, through the Work Ready program, we can look at different training options that contractors can hire some local people and have them trained on and get them into some of the industrial plants and be able to focus locally that way and still be able to gain experience. That may be something we might want to try and look into further through that program here.
That's a win-win situation there. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Councilman Robert.
First, thank y'all for doing a great job. There's a few things that I like that y'all have done that I'd like to see you do some more. One of them are kind of in the tone of what
Councilman
Coach is
Thomas.
saying. In the sense of hiring local, different things like that, you can approach all of those by setting up development districts. I think development districts would be very useful in the West Bank area, the Sorrento area, and the other rural areas of our parish that need development. I think it could also be something that we could look at for interconnectivity, meaning look at a parish-wide map, see rural areas that we may want to use to connect this part of the parish that never connected to this part, certify those sites, and be a little bit more, not saying that y'all don't do great, because you do, but be more aggressive in the sense of pursuing different people. And I say that because of what's going on in the market now. I mean, the market, the economy, all of it. There's more manufacturing, there's more industry, there's more things just moving around than there has been in my lifetime. I know web presence helps a lot, and I know you have your website for your different things. The website for that megaplex on the 1,000 acre on the other side, is that linked to like any other websites? Is it linked to our parish website?
So it's linked to our website, so it's linked to the AEDC. It has the same wrapper and the same
Yeah.
appearance, so that way it's solely dedicated to itself, but it links back to our organization so that we don't lose anybody that's interested.
That's right. And on a smaller scale, I've seen this work in commercial, industrial realty. We've had agents or people call and they'll do cold calls. I mean, where you call 40, 50, 60, 70 companies of well-known companies. And I mean, that's a lot of calls that don't really mean anything, but if you get one or two of Amazon or of who knows, just putting our name out there. And I think the web presence, getting out there, connecting to as many municipality websites, maybe state, federal, would be a great idea. And having those development districts and those different incentives for employment, for tax incentives and all that would be a great way to offer something for the parish, especially with, obviously we all know we have the resources we have.
Right. I think it's a great idea, an easier one to accomplish quickly.
And, yeah, thank you.
Councilman Roy.
This past week, several council members and administration attended the NACO conference in Washington, met with our legislators, great experience. Coach and I were blessed to meet with Angela Madison. She's the legislative and intergovernmental director of the Economic Development Association. I tell you this because her husband is a Donaldsonville native, okay? I think his name is McAdoo, right, Coach?
Charles McAdoo.
Chuck McAdoo, okay? She was extremely interested in assisting us. She gave us her personal cell, said, get in touch with us. We cannot accept the fact that Donaldsonville, the city of Donaldsonville was recently ranked the second worst city to live in this country. That is absurd. That is an embarrassment to everybody sitting in this room. We all know that Donaldsonville is better than that. And she has given us her heart, and she has given us any assistance that we need. She'll be there for us. So at your convenience, get in touch with Coach and I. We've already made plans to hook up with Angela and the local regional director. We want to push this.
All right.
And I think it's very important, and I think that kind of a connection will definitely help both you guys as well as the folks in Donaldsonville at the end. So let's get that started.
All right. Will do.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Just real quick, I just want to tell you that over the last few months, I've had to sit down with Miss Kate twice, and well, on very limited budget, y'all do a great job. And in what Coach was asking earlier, if I remember correctly, last time we sat down, roughly 70% of the companies that y'all talk to on a yearly basis are Ascension citizens.
So, yeah, it comes to about 68%.
Okay, so I just wanted to I just throw that out there. I know y'all do a lot with limited resources, so we appreciate it.
And I'll wrap it up by saying the same thing. With a staff of 3, they do a fantastic job. And if the one slide that impresses me every time they show it is the return on our investment. You know, for every dollar we spend in economic development, we get about $1,700 in return. And that's jobs, that's sales and supplies. That doesn't count everything, but it just snowballs. For every dollar, the multiplier is about $6 or $7. So it's a tremendous return on our investment. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate your report. Okay. So, passed on item D. Item C, E. Contract between Ascension Parish and EC Baton Rouge LLC for electrical engineering design for Butch Gore and J. Rio Stevens Park Field lighting replacement for not to exceed amount of $49,000.
Cagnolati. Skip C and D.
Just missed C.
I'm sorry, C. D is out. C, Ascension Economic, wait a minute.
She's gonna
She's coming
Should have
back.
kept you up there, Kate, I apologize. This is new to me. Ascension Economic Development to introduce Project Tornado, CF Industries Nitrogen LLC for participation in the ITEP under the Post-Executive Order 2018 rules. Kate McCarthy, apologize.
All right, so one of our exciting A projects is CF Industries. They are looking to do a potential expansion at their facility in Donaldsonville. It would be a $41.4 million capital investment with 7 new permanent jobs and an annual payroll of $700,000 additional dollars. Our board vetted this project and thought it was a great project to move forward with. And then the Board of Commerce and Industry at the state level also recommended this project to participate in the industrial tax exemption program. And the rules that they'd be participating under are the most recent rules, the 2018 rules under John Bell Edwards' executive order. So that is 5 years at an 80% property tax exemption, renewable to an additional 5 years at 80%. The total investment was $41.4 million. Over the 30-year life of this project, it would generate $1.26 million in property taxes for the parish and an additional $375,000 during just the construction period. And that would be a total of $1.6 million in direct tax revenue. The total abatement through the ITEP program would be $980,000. Some of the highlights of the Donaldsonville facility is that they achieved their lowest ever year-end recordable incident rate, so safety is a priority for them. This potential expansion would not create any environmental impact. It's a relatively small product expansion if it occurs. So the competition is other facility sites that have the ability to put in the same type of expansion at their facility. Currently, CF Industries pays $8.1 million in annual property taxes and $13.4 million in annual state and parish sales taxes. so they are a good corporate citizen for us in Ascension. And then I also listed some of the bullet points of the ways that CF Industries is involved in the community through different giving programs, a lot of it to do with education involvement and scholarship programs on the West Bank in particular. So this is just a direct impact and doesn't include any of the spin-off benefits that we consider as indirect impact that for every one new job in manufacturing or every $1, it creates an additional $5 impact throughout the community. So we have Morris Johnson, who is the plant manager with CF Industries. He is here tonight along with a few other members of his staff. So if you have any questions specific to the potential project operations or any of the chemical things I may not be able to answer, they are here to answer your questions. And if you have any questions on the economic information, I am here to answer your questions.
Any questions?
Question.
Councilman Thomas.
The plant manager, is he here? Okay, all right. It's Mr.
Morris Johnson.
Morris Johnson, okay. I'm really concerned with the hiring process on the West Bank. And I say that because of the number of people that get hired from Donaldsonville at CF Industry. I know they have a bunch that's there, but basically most of those people is they're come in with Turner or come in with Sunbelt or some other company, not in particular with the plant itself. And I'm asking if you would mind that you would consider some of the people from Donaldsonville that have lived there all their lives, they would be able to have a chance or have a shot at getting the 7 jobs that they have.
Well, obviously, we've been there since 1966. Donaldsonville's home for us. We feel like we realize the economic impact that we have on the West Bank relative to the East Bank. So we've made it a priority to hire local. You talk about some of the contracts. We have a large contract, obviously, workforce, but we also have a large in-source. We have almost 500 employees. I'd like to think that we always try to hire locally first. I mean, it may, those are the people that we have a connection with. As you point out, there's a large portion of our employee base that's from that area. So we have a vested interest in hiring local. I mean, those are the best people. They have a vested interest in staying with CF. So from a recruiting perspective, a retention perspective, it's as important to us as I'm sure it is for you.
So I would, and I appreciate what you're saying, but I want to make sure that what you're saying, that we are able to, I'm able to hold you to your word for us getting the people that we need to have within the facility as operators.
Right.
Not, I mean, there's other positions that's there, but for us operation,
Right.
we don't have the people that we need,
Okay.
that we have, and I would hope, I would hold you to your word that they would give them a chance, give them a shot at becoming an operator
Absolutely.
at CF. But I look forward to, I would like to come in and talk to you.
Sure.
Sit down and talk a little bit more than what we're talking right now.
All right.
But thank you very much, and I appreciate all that you do for Donaldsonville, for the West Bank of Ascension.
Thank you.
Councilman Robert.
Yes, sir, how you doing?
Good.
Just out of curiosity, about how many employees do y'all have that you pay like a per diem for? As far as people that come in and they're gonna stay, you give them so much a month for an apartment or hotel, or or a place like that?
Well, we don't typically pay per diems. The only time we would pay a per diem would be if we have a
Turn around.
construction project where we're having to reach out beyond, 40, 50 miles. So we haven't had to pay a per diem.
Okay.
And probably since the expansion project in 2016.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking that is to kind of go along with what Coach is saying. But on the other side, any of the employees that we are bringing in that don't currently reside on this side of the river, possibly see if we could work out some programs to where we could keep them on that side of the river. Particular development district or whatnot with certain shopping, make sure it has all the hotel, the whatnot on that side, which would also benefit us transportation-wise, get people going back and forth in the river. So, yeah, I'd like to reach out to you and other plants and see if we could, maybe put something together.
Sure.
Maybe get some people to stay on that side.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
It's good.
Anything further?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to
Second.
approve?
Second.
Second by Councilman Woolbear. Any objection? Any discussion? So ordered. Moving on to item E, we're skipping D, contract between Ascension Parish Government and ADG Baton Rouge LLC for electrical engineering design from Butch Gore and J. Leo Stevens Park Field lighting replacement for a not to exceed amount of $49,000. Ricky Compton. Welcome, Ricky.
Thank you. So last year, the council budgeted $1 million to do LED light and pole replacements in parks in Ascension Parish. This contract will enable us to start Phase 1, which will be 4 fields at Butch Gore, 6 fields at Stevens, and 2 of the big fields at Santa Mall Park.
Motion.
Motion.
Just roundabout, how many lights are we looking at?
Like actual light fixtures?
Yeah. No, like actual light, yeah. Any idea?
No, sir. It's 129 at Stevens. I know that one just because I looked at it. I mean, it's 4 fields at Butch Gore, 6 at Stevens, and 2 fields at Santa Mall. I mean, it's going to push every bit of that budget.
Got a motion from, no, who made the motion? Travis Turner.
I'll
Second
second
by Councilman Aaron Lawler. Aaron?
I just want to say, I'd spoken with Ricky today, and I just want to clarify, I'm really grateful because my concern was that we're only doing these fields, but we're still looking at doing Paula Park, I think Prairie Park, because we've got a lot of other fields that need it. We've got multiple fields that we're still looking at, and we're still considering the DNR loan to move forward on that. My only concern with this is I want to make sure the bid process, if this can, I think in the future, we should make sure that this goes out for a bid, because there are certain situations, if we're trying to get a grant and we don't follow the proper bid process, that can't be our matching fund. So I don't want to slow this project down. In the future, let's make sure this goes out for a bid, so in the event that we're going after a grant, we can use that money as a matching fund. In this situation, though, let's not slow this down. We need the lights real bad, so thank you all for working on that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any opposition? It's approved. Item F, renewal of professional services contract between Ascension Parish Government and Southland Fire and Safety Equipment for services to Fire District Number 1 to include instruments, valves and nozzles, fire extinguishers, SCBA's and breathing air cylinders, fire helmets, and other various equipment for a total contract amount of $18,000. Mr. Witek.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Not here.
Second.
Motion?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Lambert, second by Councilman Mike
Mason.
Mason. Any objection? Any further discussion? Motion passes. G, renewal of professional services contract between Ascension Parish Government and Roberto Macedo and Associates for project management consulting services to administer the HUD Section 8 program. Ms. Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a renewal for Mr. Roberto Mercedes. He administers the Section 8 for Ascension Parish, and we're just here to ask for a renewal.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Cazzo, second by Councilman Lawler. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Collins.
I did want you to know that Mr. Roberto is going to come put him on the agenda for next month, for this
do
month,
a
on
report?
the 19th, for him to brief you on what he does and how the program works, and give you a little better idea of what's going on.
He gives us a status
Yeah,
report
he
too as
gives you a
well.
status. So we're going to ask to put that on the March 19th agenda.
Okay, the council agenda?
Yeah, council agenda.
I'd rather see that, if I may, Martha, I'd rather see that go to finance.
Finance next
It's a
month.
better place for that report.
In
We have
April.
a pretty full agenda on the 19th.
Okay. We could have had him here tonight.
That's okay.
Okay, we're moving to the next finance agenda.
That'll be fine.
Okay.
Thank you. Item H, contract for professional services between Ascension Parish Government and James Eves, M.A., P.L.C. to provide mental health counseling and anger management group counseling at Ascension Counseling Center. Ms. Lisa Weber Curry, welcome.
Good evening, thank you. We're requesting a renewal of James Eves Provisional Licensed Professional Counselors contract to continue providing anger management groups for adults and adolescents. We'd like to add additional services by having him provide mental health services to individuals. Why? Because it's really challenging to hire male counselors. And having him there already, he served as our practicum student, where we provided supervision for him, as well as our intern student. So he can continue on already knowing our system and meeting the needs for clients who call in requesting male counselors.
Motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Just a quick question. What's the amount of that contract with him?
$36,000.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Councilman Cazell.
He's going to
Councilwoman
be
Cazell.
working in your office and providing counseling services and then doing the anger management group
Yes, ma'am.
as well? Okay. Thank you very much. He can come a couple of council meetings.
Please.
Every now and then we need
Yeah,
help.
we need help.
Just let us know when.
Good suggestion. Okay.
Just joking.
Any objection?
Got one question.
I'm sorry, Councilman.
Is he full-time with us, or is he?
He's
also-
part-time.
He's part-time, so he has a private practice on the side?
No, he's a full-time pastor.
He's a full-time pastor? Goodness. How do we land him?
Well,
Grace
he
of
came
God?
to us seeking, well, besides divine intervention, he needed supervision. He researched the website and requested that I be his supervisor. And
Fantastic.
stayed with us.
Okay, well, thanks.
All right, any other further discussion? Any objection? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, change order. Item I, change order number 1 to the contract with HCM Buildings for the Modest Fire Station for an additional 22 days for substantial completion due to inclement weather. Substantial completion date will now be April 13th, 2020. Dean Thomason. Welcome, Dean.
And as it just rain days, I mean, it's in Modest out in the cane field, and just, real muddy situation with all the rain and stuff, so we just asked for some additional days for substantial completion.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Thomas. Second by Councilman Turner. Any discussion?
Question.
Question, Councilman Thomas.
I'm gonna ask that you be a little bit more transparent with myself in that area. I mean, I hadn't heard anything from nobody, from the
Okay,
fire station. Nothing.
Oh, I
So I'm
apologize.
asking that you, if you don't mind, give me a call
Yes, sir,
and fill me in.
I'll certainly do
I
that.
appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any objection to the motion? Motion carries. Item J, change order number 1 to contract with Boone Services LLC for an additional amount of $3,722.01 for Hope Villa Pump Station replacement. New sewer service at 38119 Debbie Street due to conflict with the new pump station. Pump station connection revisions and additional time required to connect the existing pump station due to unforeseen concrete conflict. The new contract amount shall not exceed $196,722.01. The new substantial completion date is March 6, 2020.
Now, that's a misprint. It should be April 6th.
April 6th. All right, let's change that.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
The second.
Motion, second. Motion by Councilman Lambert, second by
Chase.
Councilman Malonson. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries.
Thank
Item
you.
K, change order number 1, Total Energy Solutions for preventive maintenance to stationary and mobile generators located at various locations around the parish to include a Kohler 180 kW located at Lamar Dixon, Arena C, for an additional amount of $1,300 for a new not to exceed amount of $39,250. Stephen Hardy. Out here, someone can speak on behalf of the parish. Any questions?
I'd like to make a motion, approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Chase Malonzo, second by Michael Mason. Any discussion? Any objection? And items passed. Item L, request to amend the building department fee schedule. Darren DePlessis, Chief Building Officer, and O'Neill Parrington, Parish Attorney. Welcome, Darren.
Good evening. Trying tonight to amend the fee schedule for the commercial construction, residential construction. I don't know if you want to take it by, it's about 5 different fees. I don't know how you want to do it per fee or all together. I'll just start with commercial. Our current minimum permit fee that we have adopted is $25. I am proposing to bump it to $70 just due to administrative costs, the permitting process as well as the inspections. $25 doesn't cover what we do in the office as far as processing. And then to go with that would be the commercial plan review. So every job that we issue a permit on for commercial goes through a review process. Depending on the size would depend how long it would take. So currently it's $150. So if you're building a 3,000 square foot office or a 100,000 square foot warehouse, you pay $150 for a review. Like I said, of course, the bigger jobs take 2, 3, sometimes 4 weeks to review. Example would be the hospital they're building, some of these apartment complexes, things like that. So we're just trying to cover the administrative costs for those. The fee that I had proposed here is what neighboring jurisdictions use for their commercial plan review fees. So that's what I have for commercial. Any questions on that?
Question?
When's the last time we raised the commercial? And when did we get to our $25?
From what the documents that I've received, 2009 was the last time any fees for the building department were adjusted. Some of the traffic impact fees, fees that are not associated with permitting have been adjusted, but the actual permit fees have not been adjusted since '09. And with the development since then, it's pretty substantial.
So what does that particular fee cover? It covers y'all
So the
reviewing
permit
and
fee will,
everything?
the permit fee, it's, the processing fee, my staff in the office reviewing all the documents, making sure we got, there's about 8 or so documents that we take in that we have to review, approvals from different places.
I've been through it.
And then the inspections. So the minimum permit will go towards mainly remodels of commercial buildings. If they're changing occupancies, they have to do some small repairs.
And I'm
things
saying
like
this
that.
because typically by the time it's all said and done, it's all way more than $70. For
Yeah,
the
that
permits. That's
that
all I'm
one in
saying with it.
particular is, I would say it's probably a rare case. But when we do have these, we're making 4 or 5 inspections. We got an inspector going out, and we're collecting $25. So the administrative cost is substantially more than what we're receiving for that. And then the commercial plan review, that's on every commercial project. So for the minimum, if you pay us $70, it's a little more fair if you got a smaller project. Instead of paying the $150 with the same guy that's building something 3 times the size is paying.
Yeah, I looked over the attachments for this report and this request, and he did study neighboring parishes and even a couple of municipalities.
Yeah,
And this would really not put us above anybody. It would bring us up to the surrounding parish levels. And I did look at that. It's.
So the chart I
well
included in the
studied.
attachments was just for residential. Our commercial, construction permits are on the same line as neighboring jurisdictions, just the minimum, and then the review fee was the only thing that we were lacking in. But the fees that I attached on this chart here is just strictly residential review and permit fees, which we can get to that.
I'd like to make a motion to pass.
Second.
Okay, gentlemen, what I need is, I need a motion to amend the Unified Land Development Code Appendix 12 fees as presented, so that we can send it to the full council for approval.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Alonso, second by Councilwoman Cazzo. Any other discussion?
Well, the one question I had is, I want to thank you for giving us the diagram at the bottom that provides us residential.
Absolutely.
Have you done the same for the other fees that you're asking to increase?
I have. So like I had mentioned, the commercial, so all of our permits are based on a valuation. So the commercial is based on a 10% of the bid price. So based on that valuation, you go, so it's a fee of $3 per $1,000 over 100,000, so forth. So all of the commercial has been brought up to that pace. I think back in '09 is when that was brought up to the same scale. It's just the residential had lagged behind. And I feared that if it got too much ahead, the amount we would have to increase, say, 3 or 4 years from now would be astronomical compared if we can try to get it done now.
So all the fees you're asking for increases, are they, in consort with neighboring parishes and?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Would you be able to provide us all of that data before we have to vote on it at full council?
Yeah, absolutely. I can
Perfect.
bring it to the full council, all that information.
Please.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
And we use mypermit.org, right? Correct?
Yeah, my permit now is the what we use.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier.
Any other discussion? Any objection to the motion?
No objection.
So ordered.
Thank you.
Item M, monthly contract reports for January and February 2020. Sandra Pereira, paralegal. Welcome, Sandra. Thank you for being here.
Good evening. You each have before you a list of all the contracts that were entered into in the months of January and February. If you have any questions on anything, I'd be glad to.
Any comments?
answer.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Finance reports, item A, revenue and expenditure report, Amanda Barat, Assistant Treasurer.
Good evening. Before you are the financial reports for the month of January 2020, which reflects 8.33% of the year. The first two pages are the major funds, which is general fund, sales and use tax district number 1, sales and use tax district number 2, East Ascension drainage and road and bridge. The first column of the report shows you the actual year-to-date as of January 2019 compared to the actual year-to-date for January 2020. The remaining columns are your encumbrances, the budget, the remaining amount of the budget, and the percent of budget used for both revenue and expenditures for each fund. The report also shows the operating surplus or deficit for each fund, as well as the fund balance projection. Your general fund total revenues are at 7%. Total expenditures are at 16%. Sales and use tax district number 1, total revenues are at 10%. Total expenditures are at 8%. Sales tax district number 2, total revenues are at 9%. Expenditures are at 8%. East Ascension drainage operating fund, revenues are at 9%. Expenditures are at 16%. Road and bridge, total revenues are at 12%. Expenditures are at 14%. Page 3 and 4 are the enterprise funds of the parish, which include Lamar Dixon, Parish Utilities, ACUD number 2, and ACUD number 1. And the report is in the same format. So your enterprise fund for Lamar Dixon, revenues are at 13%, expenditures are at 12%. Parish Utilities of Ascension, your revenues are at 8%, expenditures are 11%. ACUD number 2, revenues are at 15%, expenditures are at 8%. And ACUD number 1, revenues are at 9%, expenditures are at 14%. Page 5 are your major capital project funds, and includes road and bridge construction, East Ascension major drainage construction, courthouse construction, and Move Ascension. Road and bridge construction, your revenues are at 19%, expenditures are at 16%. East Ascension major construction, revenues are 11%, expenditures are at 11%. Courthouse construction, revenues are at 19%, expenditures are at 0%. Sorry about that. Move Ascension, revenues are at 4%, expenditures are at 11%. Page 6 of the report gives you the cash and investment position of the parish as of year-to-date January 2020 compared to January 2019. The total cash for 2020 is $287,639,940, of which $256,469,603 is restricted, and $31,170,337 is unrestricted, compared to January 2019 total cash of $276,686,269, with $247,458,954 being restricted and $29,227,315 unrestricted. The report also reflects the breakdown between unrestricted and restricted cash for 2019 and gives a listing of funds of January 2020 and gives you a listing of the funds associated with each. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer once you review the report.
Councilman Robert?
I was just curious about the courthouse, the expenditures at 0. They don't have any operating costs, aren't they doing some work out there?
They are, we just don't have any right now on the books for January. Most of it was accrued back to 2019, so in January we don't have any expenses.
And no operating costs? No operating cost in there monthly?
It's construction. It's just construction.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, Amanda. And that brings us to item 7.
Motion to
Motion
adjourn.
to adjourn. Second.
Second.